Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Influenced by Kim. I'm your host, Hofit Kim Cohen Meyers, and I'm so grateful to have you here. And today we're going to be talking about manifestation. I've been thinking of which manifestation story I want to tell. We're going to be talking about how I manifested my New York apartment in Times Square. But before I do that, I want to kind of explain all of this. So I just launched my podcast. People are listening. I'm still, learning the analytics and all the things. But one thing I definitely noticed is that my most popular thus far, even though there's only 6 episodes, my most popular episode thus far is by a lot, is the manifestation, how I manifested the love of my life. Exactly everything I did to manifest the love of my life at the age of 35. That is episode 4. And that is my most listened to podcast episode thus far. So I'm like, okay, it's, first of all, I know people love love. I know people are always looking for the love of their life. I know people are interested in manifestation. So I feel like all that combination put together is just a perfect vibrational match. But I know that people do love manifestation stories, and I have plenty. In fact, I was just thinking about it, I think earlier today or maybe last night or maybe both, that I should probably have an ongoing storytelling of manifestation things that I've done throughout my life, because I have so many crazy motherfucking stories about manifestation. It's fucking crazy. And I feel like once I do, you guys will start calling me the manifestation queen because if there's one thing I really, really know is manifestation, and sometimes I'm humble about it. Sometimes I believe that, who's meant to know knows. And sometimes I feel like certain people in certain timelines of my life, they were just there and they experienced it and they saw it. And it was a time, it was just for those people at that timeline. But I do want to share because I was talking to my husband the other day, and he was telling me that when he first started his business and he wasn't seeing any results, what he would do is he would listen to podcasts. He would listen to a podcast, and the entire podcast was all about success stories of people that have success in that specific industry that he's in, that do the same exact thing that he's in. So when he wasn't getting results, he would work out or do stretches on the balcony or whatever, and listen to these success stories. And over a period of time, well, first of all, it was just programming his subconscious mind and conscious mind. And then over a period of time, he just started to so motherfucking believe that this is so for him. This is so going to happen to him, because he saw how many people have massive success in that field. And it's because he listened to these different people's podcast stories of success. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I really love that. So I'm okay, so maybe if I start sharing more manifestation stories on air of things that I've been able to manifest, then maybe I will be able to help people raise their vibration and frequencies, because just by listening, I know how all of this works energetically, but just by listening to my manifestation stories, and if I have enough, you guys will listen to them, and you're going to feel like you can do it too. Or you can tap into new places in your life that you didn't know you could manifest. Giving you guys that awareness that hey, you could also manifest this and this and this and that. Also giving you tips and tricks along the way of specific things that really stick out to me that I did in that specific timeline. So I thought that was cool. And then I wanted to say also that I will say this, my specialties in manifestation, first of all, let me say this before even I say that. I want to say this. We're always manifesting. The law of attraction is always working 24/7, whether you realize it or not. It's always fucking happening, okay? Can't turn it off, can't turn it on. The only thing you can really do is turn off your awareness level to what's actually happening and pretend just tap out of the awareness of the results that you're manifesting. I feel like I'm explaining this kind of weird. Okay, hold on. Let me think of how to verbalize this. First of all, there's people that don't know that manifestation even exists, okay? There's those people, they don't have the awareness. They don't know the language. They don't know that word exists. They don't know what it means. But that doesn't even matter, because they're still manifesting, okay? Let me just put that out there. My dad is a perfect example of that. And then there are people who know manifestation exists, and sometimes they remember and they're tapped into it. And then there's other times when they I don't know, just disconnect and like kind of forget that it exists. But regardlessly, manifestation is working 24/7. The law of attraction is working 24/7. Even when you're freaking sleeping, it is always working. And so it's your choice to tap into the field or tap out of it. But in any case, shape, or form, I'm able to manifest in every category, and we all are. But if there is like categories that really stick out and stand out to me of things that I just downloaded the energetic codes of. This is why my program is called Energetic Codes. But it's like I'm really amazing at manifesting like places to live, like very specific, like an apartment in Times Square. Okay, not just an apartment in New York and Manhattan, like in fucking Times Square. Very specific. I had an apartment, I had a Malibu, like a house on the beach in Malibu, an apartment complex on the beach, on the sand in Malibu at the age of 21. Really super specific. And I'm really, even like the apartment complex that I live in Miami, I also manifested that. I've manifested every single apartment that I've ever lived in, condo, apartment, whatever you want to call it. And they're all so detailed and so specific. I'm really good at manifesting like exact apartments and units and exact buildings. Like I'm crazy when it comes to that shit. I'm also really good at manifesting money in short period amount of times. Like that is also one of my specialties. Like I've become such an expert at the topic that I actually have an entire masterclass called Money Magnet, where I teach you how to do everything that I just mentioned. That's like my specialty. So I'm gonna leave a link in the show notes. Definitely check that out. That is like my most bought out, sold out masterclass of all time. Manifesting like $10,000 in 4 days when my bank account is like at zero. I'm really good at that. I've done that. I feel like that's my number one, is manifesting like money out of my ass, like out of nowhere, manifesting like specific as fuck quantities of money. Doesn't matter if it's 3 figures, 5 figures, or 6 figures, just manifesting like specific to the dollar amount money is also one of my specialties. And then anything that has to do with travel, I feel like that's just like easy breezy. Any bucket list things that I've ever, like things that are really rare when it comes to travel, like seeing the Northern Lights, I like manifested that. I've seen the Northern Lights like 10 times in Iceland, which is insane. That was like my biggest dream for so many years. But there are very specific travel things that I've been able, like bucket list rare things that almost no one gets to do in their lifetime, like I got to do, and I'm really good at manifesting those things. I'm trying to think what else. I feel like I like mastered manifesting specific people into my life. I'm trying to think of how to like verbalize this. I'm really good at manifesting like celebrities, public figures, people that I've looked up to. I'm really good at like having them become my friend and like attracting that. Sometimes I'm like, how the fuck do I do that? Like, I know what I do and I don't. Sometimes I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? I'm talking about from like A-list celebrities to just people that like I've looked up to like in a specific industry that I was in, people with multi-million followers, just so many like really random and very specific types of people that like I once looked up to and now they're like my friends, like really weird shit like that. I can go on and on. Anyways, those are my specialty when it comes to manifestation. And I feel like the rest of the things that I'm manifesting, but maybe I'm just like not aware that they are my specialty. But these are what I'm good at. And so without further ado, I'm going to share how I manifested my dream apartment in New York in Times Square. It's not just New York. It's fucking Times Square. And I want to say this, disclosure. Ideally, it did sound like the perfect idea to live in Times Square, but actually when you live in Times Square, you realize that is the most absurd, insane fucking idea ever. It's just the most unrealistic place to live. It's just madness and chaos, and there were a lot of things that I didn't like take into consideration, but that doesn't like take away the fact that it was just magical, and I was like in shock at like what I was able to accomplish and do when it comes to this. So I'm going to get into story time of how I manifested my dream apartment in Times Square. Let's start. Okay, so for many, many, many years growing up, I had an obsession with New York City. I would see it in movies. And there was just like this deeper inner calling inside of my heart that was like, I have to, like, once in my life, I have to live in New York. I don't care if it's for a short period amount of time. I just have to live there. And not in New York, like, it had to be Manhattan. It like had to be like, I was just obsessed with Times Square. One of my favorite movies of all time is Vanilla Sky. And there's like this scene in the beginning of the movie where Tom Cruise like is running in Times Square, like in the middle of the street, and there's no cars and there's no people and there's nothing and it's just him. And I always thought that was fucking so cool and so crazy. I don't even know how many, I think I was like 18, 19 when that movie, I don't know, when I watched that movie and it became one of my favorite movies. And half of its name is related to my travel blog. But there's obviously, that's just like something that just came out of my mind, right? But there's so many movies that take place in New York. Oh my God, Coyote Ugly. Are you kidding me? There is another core memory. I wanted to be her. I wanted to be that girl in Coyote Ugly. The actor's name is Piper. I forget her real name in the movie, but I wanted to be Coyote Ugly. There were so many movies. There's Rent. There are so many movies that they have these like stories of these, these girls that have like these big dreams and they want to move to the big city. I was already living in the big city. I was living in Los Angeles, but they want to move to the big city and they want to make their dream come true, normally in the music industry or like acting or dancing. There was also Save the Last Dance. But there is just a lot of that. And they come to New York and they like rent this shit apartment that looks like a piece of garbage. I don't know why, like, there's just these ongoing themes and stories. I do know why. It's because, like, the deep state and the government, sorry, I got to go into the conspiracy theories era and, like, give you guys the truth. The government and the deep state and the cabal, they work hand in hand together. They are the same unit, and they, like, pitch Hollywood, like, the types of movies that they should. The CIA works with Hollywood, and they pitch them. This is a whole, like a real operation that was declassified. So you can look this up. I'm not making it up. Google that shit. But basically, Hollywood was created by the CIA to do mind control on people. I don't know how the heck I just get into these topics, but that's what it is. It's to do mind control on people. And there are, like, if you look at, like, movies, there's just, like, ongoing themes in specific movies. There's, like, certain themes in movies. Like, all love stories are kind of the same. All relationship movies are the same. All, end of the world movies are kind of the same. There are like these ongoing continuous themes if you're actually paying attention. Well, one of the themes is moving to New York City to make it. And I always was obsessed with that ideology of just doing that. And there is an ongoing theme of these like beautiful women that, go to the big city to make it and to perform. And they always rent a shit fucking disgusting apartment like in the movie Rent or in Coyote Ugly. And I know that there is more. And they're like, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. And then there's always that scene where like they make a bunch of money doing something and they hide the money inside of like the place, like in their toilet. Do you know what I'm talking about? Or like in their fridge, and then they have their house broken into and their money is stolen. You know what I'm talking about? I know you do. I'm a big movie girl. Like, I know you do. But there is something about that struggle that like in the movie that is just like, I feel for her, but you know that she's going to make it at the end of the movie. I was obsessed with stories like this. They fall in love and they move to the big city. Then they move to the big city. They're broke. They live in a shit apartment. They find love. They make their dreams come true. They become famous. All the things. Like, I wanted that to be my fucking life. And I do want to say this when it comes to manifestation. I have my views on what I think about Hollywood and the elites and, movies and celebrities. That's like one essence in and of itself. However, I can't take away from the fact that my obsession for movies since I was a kid, and it's just kind of like how our mom raised us. Like, my brother has an obsession for movies in our family dynamic. Like, we love certain directors. We can talk like movies for like a billion hours. We have movies that are like my siblings and my mom, like we love like Tim Burton and Martin Scorsese, and we love like certain actors, and we also love Quentin Tarantino. There are like these certain directors and actors, and we just kind of talk about movies a lot in the family, and our mom just kind of like raised us on a lot of movies. And while some people might think that movies are bad and they're mind control, which they are, they are. But aside of that, I can't take away from the fact that movies have been such a powerful, powerful way of how I've been able to tap into insane manifestations. How I've been able to manifest like a crazy fucking life. A lot of it has to do with movies. It has to do with the things that I watched, the things like the movies, the shows, the things that I watched, that I obsessed over, that I watched millions of times, that I memorized all the lines to, that I envisioned myself as this character, as this person. Like, I can't take away the fact that like I've done this so many times, and because I've watched so many movies, there was even a time where I was like low-key thinking like maybe I should be like a movie blogger because I've really watched it all. But I can't take away from the fact that these movies have helped me manifest so much in my life, like good shit. Okay, so yes, like, you know, Hollywood's elite is Hollywood's elites and celebrities and all of that. That's like one entity within and of itself. But there's always good to be taken from the bad. And I'm telling you guys, movies have they've really amplified like the fuck out of the things that I've been able to manifest. So I definitely do still recommend them. Because I feel like in movies, they allow you to also embody a version of yourself, to tap into that version of yourself that, you know, you're striving to be or you'd like to be. Like it just helps. It helps. Okay, so anyways, back to the original story. This is going to happen a lot. I'm just going to drift off into different topics, but I'm always going to come back because that's just who I am. So enjoy it. Learn to love it. Okay, growing up, always wanted to live in New York. Saw these like beautiful tragic girl stories at that, but like there was always a happily ever after at the end. I wanted that to be my life. I wanted to move to New York, to the Big Apple. That always seemed so much more overwhelming than LA. Like LA seemed like popcorn pieces compared to Manhattan. It just seemed so intense. I also had an obsession, one second, to like, so the obsession was, or like that the dream was to move to New York, and then what was I going to do there? So it was always to or make it like in the singing industry, to be a famous singer, or to be on Broadway. There was a different time where I was doing makeup. I was a makeup artist. I went to, I'm a certified fashion stylist, so I went to school for makeup, or like to work for some kind of a magazine. There was also How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. There was 13 Going on 30. So like the movie industry really made it really cool to work for a magazine and to just try to go to New York and just make it in whatever the fuck it is. I wanted that life. I wanted that dream. I wanted to be a character in one of these movies. I watched all these movies. I mean, I'm telling you guys, there's so many, and I know you know, so many times in my life. And I think that over a period of time, I felt like I was those characters. I dreamed that like that was me. I visualized it. I like manifested it, like all the fucking things. And so as I got older, it like changed. Like one time I wanted to go to be the singer, right? A different time for something else. But I was like, but I'm living in New York. And then in the year, I believe it was 2000 or 2001, we actually went to New York as a family for the very first time. And I like died in the best way possible. I was in New York heaven. I was obsessed and in love with Manhattan. I thought it was just the most spectacular, greatest thing. We went to Broadway shows. We did all these things. And I've always had an obsession with Broadway. It just seemed like the dream in every perspective possible. I fell in love with it. And when we were in New York, I got this frame that said, New York is like this souvenir store, this cheesy souvenir store. It was like New York, the Big Apple, Statue of Liberty. And I framed my picture of myself in New York. And I had this picture like next to my bed, I always used to move it around in front of my computer, next to my computer at the time. And I was like, I'm going to live in New York. I'm going to move in New York. It's not even an if, it's just like a when. It's like happening 100%. It was just like when is going to be the right time. I couldn't wait to go back because of my obsession for New York. My mom ended up getting me like for my 17th birthday. She surprised me and got me a ticket to go to New York with my friend. Damn, my mom has balls to send a 17-year-old by herself to New York. She's really cool. I still look back at it, I was like, how the hell did she do that? Like, I'm not sending my daughter to New York by herself at the age of 17, but good for my mom. And the obsession just carried on forever and a half until it was time to make it a reality. So there were different times after I turned 18, there were different timelines where I thought, okay, this is actually happening. I thought it was going to happen when I'm 18, but then I fell in love. And then I thought it was going to happen when I was 21, where I saved up. I decided that I was going to save up, I think it's like $7,000 or $10,000 in 2.5 months is the timeline I gave myself. And then I was going to move to New York. But my life was so thriving in LA at the time. It was like the best time of my LA memories for life that I decided to change my mind. And I actually lived, that's when I moved to Malibu and I rented a house on the beach. And then I got engaged. And then when my engagement broke off, okay, so that's where we're going to leave off the story. I will tell the story about Malibu in a future time and how I manifested my house in Malibu at the age of 21, paying for it by myself. But I was engaged when I was like from age 22 to 23 to my 23rd birthday, where my ex-fiance destroyed my 23rd birthday. And so my birthday falls on August 12th. And we broke up on my birthday, and I was so heartbroken, shattered, confused. But I felt so, I don't even know. Like, I was so angry and upset at like how and what just went down. That I decided, like, I was so hurt and in such utter shock that I was like, it's just really bad. I didn't want to process like the pain. I just decided to block it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to cry over him. When one dream falls apart, you just have to pick up yourself up and follow the next great dream. That is a quote from my mind that I kept telling myself at the age of 23, like right when I turned 23. I was like, that was literally, so August 12th is my birthday. The next day, August 13th, I wake up and I'm a complete fucking mess and I'm so sad. And I was like, no. I had to like parent myself, and I was like, no. When one dream falls apart, we got to pick up our chin and follow the next great dream. Like, we can't let this define us, demolish us. Like, yes, getting married young and with the love of my life, my high school sweetheart, like, yes, that was my dream. But like, okay, if that didn't work out, I can't sit here and feel sorry for myself. I just got to chase the next great thing, which was New York. It was like, this was the time. So I didn't let myself cry, which later made things even worse. But I blocked myself. I'm like, okay, I'm tough. I can do this. That was called like disassociation, FYI. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to New York, but what am I actually going to do there? And while I was dating my ex-fiance, I wanted to like be a designer, a shoe designer. I made these like really cool shoes with Swarovski crystals because I've always loved the sparkle. It's in my Leo personality. If you know me, you know me. I always have to wear everything sparkly. Just look at my wedding dresses. And I was like designing these Swarovski crystal shoes before Swarovski crystals or just like diamonds on shoes was even a thing. I know I'm a pioneer. Like, I just get downloads before things are actually cool and trendy. Now I own like so many sparkly shoes, but that wasn't a thing at the time. And I also wanted to do like accessories and put them on handbags. And I like kind of like made sketches, and I actually designed, and I went to like downtown LA and I bought all these Swarovski crystals and I like actually put them on shoes and created really cool fucking designs. I took photos of them. I already had a brand name. It was going to be called I can't even talk. Don Pedro, which is like named after my grandparents, is whatever. That's like a whole thing. Even like for my birthday, my 23rd birthday, the one that my ex-fiance decided to destroy and not show up to, my mom ordered me. Did she make it or did she order me? She made me a cake that was in the shape of a shoebox, and it said Don Pedro and it said my name, and it was beautiful. And like everyone knew like, okay, that was my next venture at the time, was I was going to be like a Swarovski crystal shoe designer with accessories. So I was trying to think like, what am I going to, okay, I'm going to pitch this to my parents. I need to tell them like, what am I going to actually do in New York? So I decided to find a university. Like, I was like, this is like anything that has with education was always like a good pitch point for my parents to like just go all in on it. I had found FIT, which is a Fashion Institute of Technology University. Like, if you didn't know that, like, there's a university that actually exists for fashion, there is. It's in New York. Makes sense. You know, New York Fashion Week. New York is like a big fashion city. And I found FIT. It was in Manhattan. It was very close to Times Square, 23rd, 27th, and 7th Street, to be exact. And I had just found this program. And so while I was doing like research on my computer, I found this program for accessory design where you learn how to design shoes and handbags and accessories. And it just sounded so perfect. And guess what? The first day of school was starting on August 25th, and it was August 13th. That gave me like, what is it? Like a week and a half or so to get my shit together and move to New York. It was a psycho-ass idea. I did all my research to pitch this to my parents of how much the school was, how much the whole thing was going to be, what I was going to do there. Like, I had to come up with a whole plan. It's crazy that I did this the day after I broke up with my fiance. So I think I might have researched this for a day and a half, but definitely like I did the research really fast. I pitched it to my parents in the beginning. They're like, Hofit, no. And then I just drove them crazy and they're like, fine. And my pitch was also like, what did I say to them? I'm like, you just pay for the school, which I think was like $5,000 at the time, and maybe like my flights there because it's so short notice. And I feel like the flights were like $670 one way because it was such short notice. And I will pay for everything else. Like, I will pay for my rent and I will pay for, you know, my rent, my flights, like my school supply, like, I don't know, whatever it was. I feel like that was like the pitch. They definitely paid for the school and I think the flights there. Anyways, they're like, okay, they knew that this was my dream. They knew I was broken and sad. So they eventually said, okay. I first convinced my mom and then my mom had to convince my dad. And then they were like on the bandwagon. And so I signed up to FIT. And now I was no longer even sad, which was like true and not true. I was like disassociating my pain. And I was just trying to like band-aid it and just be like, now I don't have to even think about my ex. I just can just focus on my fucking dream, New York. I'm going to be that girl in the movies. And so, you know, I get to New York and I had at the time a few friends that were living in New York, but they were actually leaving New York. So they went to like NYU and they were about to like leave. So I had a place to stay in the first like few days. It was a lot, but I really did feel like I was that girl in the movie. Like, I was moving to the Big Apple and I was starting, you know, like I was like starting school there and I was going to be the new girl. And like I made up this whole story in my brain and it just manifested into reality. Anyways, there were a lot of great cities inside of New York, neighborhoods, but I wanted Times Square. I didn't know that it's not actually practical in the bigger scheme of things, but I just wanted to live in Times Square. So I went to Craigslist and I was looking for apartments, which is called like the Diamond District, the Jewelry District. I was mainly looking in Times Square, but I did also go look at other neighborhoods, but I just felt like it called for me, like that madness, like that Times Square madness was just like, my soul needed that shit, yo. So I was also obsessed with Broadway and I did theater my whole life. So it just felt like the perfect place to just be around all these theaters and plays and arts and whatever. Anyways, so here's the wild story about manifesting this apartment. It was actually effing crazy. I wish that I could like upload like photos to this podcast episode, but I like can't. But like, wouldn't that be nice? Okay. I had checked out other neighborhoods, but I really, my heart, my soul was like Times Square. I had pictured this moment of me just like being in Times Square, and I loved the cold, and I loved all the shit that like people hate about New York, the subway and the rats and the cold, and like just I loved it all. I saw the beauty of all of it. I loved it, and I really wanted Times Square. Here is a wild story. I see a Craigslist ad for an apartment in Times Square. And it was like reasonably affordable. I think it was like $1,200 or something. and it was furnished, which was like a really big deal. And there were like little things that I wanted. So like when it comes to manifestation, you want to be specific as fuck when it comes to the details. And I preferred for it to have an elevator, okay? Like I was not into walking up like 4 floors. The nicest apartments are always on the 4th floor, but you have to walk up all these stairs. And I thought about like laundry and groceries, and it just not be practical. So it had to, these are my criterias that it had to have. This is what I was trying to manifest and go for. I would have loved for it to be furnished. Okay, that's one. An elevator would be nice. Times Square would be nice. I would love an apartment that had like some sort of a rooftop, like in the movies. Preferably one that you can see like Times Square, like the ball drop in. I always hated the concept of like roommates, but then I loved the movie Rent. And so, I just kind of was like, I would love to just have that kind of experience, but I would love to have like cool roommates, not annoying roommates. So like, I never wanted to manifest having roommates, but I'm like, but it's something that it's like a bucket list thing that I've always wanted like to experience at least once in my life. So I did kind of like thought the idea of that would be cool. I wanted a room that had a closet in it, which a lot of rooms in New York do not have closets. I think for now, like, we'll just leave it at that. Like, those are specific things that really stand out to me. Like, the elevator was like definitely a must. And I guess like I started to understand what I wanted more and more the more apartments I saw. And it also, needed to be next to a train, and it needed to be safe at night and also like convenient to get to my school. So these were like, I had a lot of things on my little bucket list. God, I'm having a moment. Like, I can't believe that Peanut was not part of my life then. My dog, Peanut, like, oh my God. Peanut became my son at like, I think I was like 28 when Peanut became the puppy of my life. He was born in 2013. All this timeline is like 2009. I can't believe Peanut wasn't there with me. Like, that makes me want to cry. Like, my angel baby, like, I can't believe he just like skipped out on that part of life. I just don't even know what like life looked like without him, because we just done life for 11 and a half years, like so hardcore. We've lived in so many places. Like, that's actually like profound and crazy. Like, I never thought about it. Like, because over time, like, I did become lonely in New York. New York is a type of a city that like you're or vibrating on that vibrational state, or it just eats you alive if you're not vibrating at that high state, that like intensity state. And like, while I was, going through like this intense breakup, it just, like, I would have really loved his companionship through this journey. It's wild. Like, I don't even know how I used to do everything by myself. Like, it's crazy. The amount of confidence and balls I had, like, I'm like proud of my younger self for all of it. Okay, so those were the criteria that I wanted. I wanted a subway. I wanted the F train, to be specific. Like, I was so specific. Again, you guys, when I talk about manifestation, the number one key component is specificness. And one of the things about my husband that really annoys the shit out of me, love Benny, is that when he tells stories or when he like explains things, he's so general. And I'm like, be specific, be specific. And like, if you know anything about me, I'm the most detail-oriented person you'll ever meet. I'm insane. If you just look at my wedding, you just know that I'm insane when it comes to details. And it's not for no reason. It's not for no reason. When it comes to manifestation, you have to be specific as fuck. As fuck. You cannot, there's like no like too much detail. It just doesn't exist. Do you get it? Like, the number does not exist. Like, it reminds me of Mean Girls. The number does not exist. The number does not exist. It does not exist. How many things you want on your list? It doesn't mean you're going to get all of them, but the more specific you are, the higher chance you're going to manifest exactly what it is that you want, because the more details you give to things, the more specific, like, how do I explain this? Like, when you're general, a lot of times when people are general, this is what happens. They end up manifesting general shit. They end up manifesting things that they did not want because they were so fucking general. And so when things actually manifest into reality, into their sphere, they don't even realize that they manifested that one thing that they've been asking for, because that shit, they fucking threw into the universe something that was so general that if it looked them straight in the eye, they wouldn't even realize that they manifested it, because it was just general. It wasn't specific. Does that make sense? Like, if you're like, I want to manifest a car, and you're not like specific on like the type of car, the type of color, the type of texture, the type of like leather. Do you want leather or like fabric seats? Do you want it to have this? Do you want it to have that? Like, if you're not specific, you're just going to end up manifesting a car eventually at one point, because you weren't specific on the timelines and the dates and everything. You're just going to manifest a car at one point. But when you manifest that car, you're going to be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you wouldn't even realize that you manifested it. Let's just like, that's number one. And when you do get the car, a car, you're not even going to have like gratitude. You're just not, it's not like you're not going to have gratitude, but it's not going to wow you. It's not going to amaze you, because what you put out into the universe was just so motherfucking general that it's not going to create like a spark. But when you're like crazy like me with your manifestation, if you haven't listened to like my podcast on how I manifested the love of my life, I literally wrote a book. I had like a notebook with like 7 pages of all the things that I wanted him to have, right? And so when you are specific as fuck, like me, like in my New York apartment situation where I was like, I wanted to have an elevator and next to the F train and to be in Times Square and to have a rooftop and to be furnished, so I don't have to buy furniture because I don't know how long I'm going to live in New York anyways. And I wanted to have this and this and this and this and this and that. If you're that specific and you actually end up getting like almost all of the things that you put on that fucking list, you're like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy. No, this is fucking crazy. I can't believe it. Like, no, it has everything. It has everything. It has everything on my list. Like, this is fucking crazy. This is fucking crazy, right? But if you just like, if I just said I want an apartment in New York, like, would I be amazed and shocked that I moved to New York and I got an apartment in New York? Like, no, it would not amaze me or shock me. Okay. So the thing that annoys me about my husband is like, I'm always like, tell me more details, be specific, be specific. And it's so important for your manifestations to be specific. Why? Because you're always manifesting. Like I started this podcast episode with, you're always manifesting. The law of attraction is always working, whether you realize it or not. It's always fucking working. It's always there. And so it's where you're going to attract average shit, or you're going to attract like your fucking dream situations. And if the law of attraction is already working, then why won't you work a little bit harder to manifest that beautiful fucking thing that you actually want? Like, why not just invest a little bit more time into manifesting the dream fucking scenario? Whether it's your lover, whether it's your dream apartment, because you've manifested this fucking crazy movie that you made up in your head for like years, right? Or your dream career or a certain money amount. Like, why not be specific, right? Like, it's not enough to be like, I would love to manifest, like, I would love to just have money right now. Like, I need money. Like, I want to manifest money. Like, that's not enough. Like, for what? What do you need it for? How much do you need? What would you do with it? Like, get specific, you guys. Otherwise, you're going to attract things and you're going to think that the law of attraction isn't working because you weren't specific enough. Be fucking specific. Okay? That's like something that people always like disregard, or they're like, I don't want to put too many things on the list. And that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't mean that everything you put on the motherfucking list is going to happen. Right? If you like put like 20 things that you'd like your apartment to have, it doesn't mean you're going to find all 20. But guess what? If you find like, first of all, there is like one reaction when you never made the list. You want an apartment, you found an apartment, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I found an apartment. Like you're not excited about life. Then you have the scenario where you wrote 20 things down and you manifested like 17. Do you know what's going to happen? You're going to be like, holy fucking shit. I manifested. I can't believe it. Like these were specific things and they actually came true. And that adrenaline and excitement and like all of that just like blows your mind and just raises your vibration to such a high degree. Then you just become so fucking grateful. And then you just start becoming a magnet to your desires, and you just keep attracting more and more and more into your fucking life and into your sphere, because you're like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy. That is so much more fun to play in that realm of just raising your vibration and frequencies to a high degree than like just being basic about life and just being general. Like, you're not being humble, you're not being modest. Like, fucking ask for shit. The universe is always listening. The universe always has your back. God is always fucking listening. Tell him exactly what you want. But when you tell him what you want and the universe, just know that it's going to take a little bit of time to rearrange things in order to attract exactly what it is that you want into your life. So you also have to be patient in that timeline. Okay, continuing the story. So I find this Craigslist ad, $1,200, this apartment in Times Square. I go, I look, and I'm like, holy fucking shit. This is 47th and Broadway. If you don't know what that is Times Square. Times Square is 42nd and 47th, okay? and Broadway. So this apartment is on 47th and Broadway. Like, it is like you, I don't even know how to explain this. Like, you walk out of the apartment and you walk like, I don't know, 25, 30 feet and you're in Times Square. It's insane. It's like, there's the apartment and then there is a little restaurant, like a little bar restaurant thing. And then there is like a theater, like a Broadway theater. And then like, boom, Times Square. Like, insane. So I see this place and I walk in and I'm like, oh my God. And the door had 7, which I've talked about in a different podcast episode, that like 7 is like my number. Okay, my dog was born on August 7th. Ben was born on the 7th. 7th is like this good luck number. I think it was C7. And C is like Cohen. So I'm like, yes, yes. Okay, 7's like a number that pops up for me for good luck. Like, it's like a thing from the universe. So I walk in and it was like an open house kind of a situation. They're like, okay, we're showing this place from this time to this time, from like 2 to 4. Anybody that wants to walk in, walk in. It's a walk in. We'll show you the fucking apartment and, you know, whatever. So I walk in and there were like a lot of people there and I was like so confused because in LA, that's not how it's done. In LA, like, you know, you call, you see like vacant sign, you call. Back in the day, you call, you go see it by yourself. There's not like fucking 30 people in this tiny little apartment. Now I didn't understand like the New York game, we'll call it that, where essentially in New York, the way you rent an apartment in LA and New York are very different. So like I said, in LA, see a vacant sign, you call it, before there was like Zillow and apartments.com and all of that. You see it and you call, or you show up, or you call the manager, and if they're there, then they open and let you see it, and you know, you apply for the apartment. And okay, no, New York, so different. New York, you see an apartment, if you want it, you better have a fucking checkbook, like right fucking there, and be like, I want it. Here's my deposit check. Here you go. I didn't know the fucking game in New York. Okay. I did not know that this is how it works. And a lot of these places, like, they don't run your credit because a lot of people own these condos and they just rent out rooms inside of it. Okay. So I see the apartment and I think I like applied in whatever format that was. It wasn't like a real apartment format where they check your credit and all these things. No, it was like I applied, or I said I was interested, and I was just waiting after that. I loved this place. It was great. It had no living room. Essentially, it was a 1-bedroom. Okay, I'll explain it like this. It was a 1-bedroom with a kitchen and a bathroom. And it used to have a living room, but then they like took the living room and turned it into 2 rooms. Very common in New York. The room that was for rent didn't have a closet though, and it was kind of fucking small and tiny. But I really wanted to live in Times Square, so I was like willing to settle for less to have a fucking tiny room with no closet. I don't even know if it had a window. I definitely wanted like windows in my room, and I wanted a heater. That was also a thing. I had a list of things. I wanted windows. I wanted windows that looked like New York, you know, with like the emergency staircase that, like, you know, like the movies, like very New Yorky. And this room did not have any of that, but I really liked the location. It had an elevator, it had the things. And yeah, I went to my friend's house that I was staying at her house, and I was waiting to be called back, and no one fucking called me. And this girl was really sweet, and she was getting ready to start her first year at NYU, and she takes school really, really, really seriously. Really, really, really seriously. And all she does, she's one of these people that like studies like 24/7, no social life. All she does is studies. You know, she wanted to be a doctor. Like, this was like really serious to her. She did not want to have me at her house. Like, she just wanted to fucking focus on her shit, like on her study. Okay. So I'm just like, she's like, so what's going on? And I'm like, I'm just waiting. And she's like, have you called them? And I was like, no, I should probably do that. It's just, I'm used to the LA way, right? I call the people and I'm like, hey, like, so what's going on with that apartment? Like, did you decide? And they're like, oh, we already rented it out. And my heart died and I cried. And I was like, it was like a dagger to my soul. I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, how, what? Like, so confused and sad. And he's like, yeah, like somebody had come by that day and just handed me a check. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was how it's done. I wish somebody would have told me. Wow, I would have loved it. And he's like, yeah, honey, this is New York. I was really getting that movie scene. Like, honey, this is New York. We don't fuck around in New York. So I was like, okay, like, wow, I'm so sad. And then I cried. I was so fucking sad. And this is the thing about manifestations. I think that like right before something really good always happens. This is the thing. There's always a test. There's always a motherfucking test. And if you pass the test, you get to win. You get to have your heart's desire. On the 11th hour, right before when shit's about to hit the fan, right before you're about to give up, right when you're like, fuck, it's never going to happen, right? Like at that pinnacle moment, something magical happens. But it's like you are being tested right before you get to the finish line of how bad do you want it. This is always a test. And a lot of people, when it comes to manifestation, they quit right here. They're like, okay, it's done. It's not happening. And they just let go of their manifestation. Like, I don't want it anymore. I'm over it. If it's taking this long or it's taking this, like if it requires this or I have to go through this, maybe it's a sign that it's actually not meant for me. No, bitch. No, it is meant for you. Pass the fucking test and you will be rewarded. Don't fucking quit right where you're at the finish line. Don't quit at the 11th hour. Do not do that. Well, I was like, okay, that really sucks. Now I know how things in New York are done. I wish I would have had my checkbox. But okay, now I know. So next time I find an apartment that I fucking love right then and there, like that's what I'm going to do. So I just kept, I'm like, I'm so sorry to my friend. I kept on my journey and I kept like, I was so confused, FYI. I'm going to stop right here. I was so confused because when I went to this apartment, like it felt fucking real to me, you guys. Like I was like, I can see myself living here. I can see myself waking up in the morning and coming downstairs and drinking coffee at this place across the street and getting my little groceries at this little market like across the street next door. And like, wow, the subway is right here. And I can see myself like walking to school and coming down this pathway. And wow, how amazing would it be to be in Times Square and oh my God, to have like theater, like all these Broadway theaters, like right downstairs. Like I was so confused because I still felt like that place was mine. That like I kept looking, but my mind was like stuck there. Like it just didn't make sense to me. It did not add up to me. Like how was I so wrong? How did I really wanted this. Like I saw a lot of places that were like decent, but like I really, really wanted this because this place like reminded me of my fucking dreams. This is like what I envisioned when I moved to New York. Like I saw a lot of apartments, but like nothing came to like this visualization of very movie-like situation. And so while I was still looking for other apartments, like I was also dazed and confused and being just like, why? Like, why didn't that work out? Like, it's not like, why did that happen to me? It was just like, like, I really felt like that felt like fucking real. That felt like my future life. I was so effing confused, but I was just like, what the fuck am I going to do? I just let it go. I surrendered. I let it go. I kept going on the search. So now a week goes by, maybe a week and a half. And I'm like, fuck, I feel so bad. My friend really wants to study and have her own fucking life. And I'm like up her ass, sitting on her fucking couch, like, ugh. No, probably like a week went by. But like every day I was like going and seeing like 3 or 4 places. And like a few days later, she's just like, so what's happening? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm not finding what I need to find. There are so many sketched out apartments in New York, you guys. There was one place, I have to fucking share the story because I've never told the story in my entire fucking life. In Hell's Kitchen, which is kind of next to Times Square, I found this place and it was really a vibe. The guy, like the place was very furnished to my liking, but there was like a strip club downstairs, fucking New York. And this dude who was kind of giving creepy vibes. Like I have to say, like if he ended up being on like top 100 serial killers of the year, like I would believe it. There was something creepy about him. There was something like, it was giving like vampire vibes. Like there was something weird in his energy field, but he's like, listen, you can live here, but just to let you know, I'm a masseuse therapist and I do massages at night in this apartment and you can't be here when that happens. But what it really sounded like is I do happy endings and escorting in the middle of the night. And when that happens, you can't fucking be here. It was giving that. It was giving that because he was giving that. It was so fucking weird. And I was like, holy shit, people in New York are fucking crazy. There were so many crazy things that happened apartment searching. I know I'm like rambling about this story, but they were like, I can just create like an entire podcast on the weird fucking encounters of the places that I fucking went and saw, because people in New York are fucking weird humans. Like, they're just a species. Like, they're fucking wild. So here I am, sad. I went to see all the places. There's nothing new on Craigslist. There's nothing new. I keep hitting refresh every single day. I keep looking and going on taxis in the rain and going and being disappointed and sad. And I'm like confused about this fucking apartment that I really, really wanted. And it's just like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I told her, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And like where she was living was Soho, which was like so far away from like my school and where I wanted to live. It just, nothing was happening. And then I had this like kind of like almost surrendery breakdown like conversation. I'm like this conversation that I'm talking about is like, I don't know what to do. And after that, I opened my laptop and I hit refresh, and all of a sudden there was a new listing, and it was in Times Square. And I was like, oh my God, hold on, there's a new thing in Times Square. And like, meanwhile, like in this week time span, I probably saw like 15 different apartments, if not more. And I had to remember so many different addresses. You did not have navigation on your phone. It was like old school. You had to figure it out and ask taxi drivers and shit. And so I'm like, there's this new place. Oh my God, it's furnished. It's 1 bedroom. It has windows. Like, it has an elevator. Like, oh my God, like, oh my God, I'm really excited. Okay. And for a moment I had this like, like that address looks kind of familiar, but I don't know. Like, have I been there? Like, I don't know. So I get into a taxi and I am like, I have to go right now. Like, let's see what this is. And all of a sudden the taxi drops me off at that apartment complex. The one in like Times Square. And I'm like, what? This is weird. I have been here. This was the place. And I go to the doorman. Oh my God. And I had to have a doorman, you guys. That was also a bucket list thing that like on my manifestation list. I had to have a doorman because it made me feel safe as a female, young, pretty girl living in New York by herself that doesn't know fucking anybody. I needed to feel safe and I needed to have a doorman. And I wanted to be also like for safety, but also for bougie reasons, because I just feel like it was so New York. It was so class. It was such a vibe. I totally forgot. That was another detail on my fucking Schindler's List of things. And all of a sudden, I'm going up the elevator, which was beautiful and gold and very like elegant New York. And I'm like, what the fuck? I am back into that apartment. I'm so confused. And the owner, the guy that I spoke to like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, and he's like, honey, this is New York. This is how it's done. He's like, yo, you guys, this shit tripped me the motherfucking out. Like, what? It's so crazy. I walk in like, hi. And he's like, hey. And he's like, I'm like, wait, what happened? Like, so lost. And he's like, oh, we're renting out this room here. There's another room. And I walk into that room and I'm like, oh my God. Wait, what the fuck? Like in the beginning, I thought like maybe that other room did not work out and that person, like no. But all of a sudden he shows me like the fucking room. Okay? The fucking room. Sorry. Because the other room that I originally thought I wanted to rent, it wasn't even a real room, you guys. It was like a living room divided into 2 bedroom, which is, dude, this room was like 2 times the size, if not 2.5, okay, than the other shit that I wanted to rent. It was for the same exact price. It was $1,200. It was furnished. It had a beautiful bed. It had 2 fucking windows. It had a real closet. It had a heater. It had like a little cute desk where I was gonna like sit and design and do schoolwork. It had those like New York stairs that I was manifesting, those like, the emergency staircase. I was fucking speechless. It had like wooden floors. It was beautiful. It was lit. I was like, what the fuck? And in that moment, I was astounded, because you guys, if you've heard this podcast episode, there was so much detail that went into like exactly what I wanted, like obscene, the doorman, the elevator, and get this, there was a rooftop, and the rooftop faced Times Square. I wish I can show you this. It's on my Facebook somewhere. Like when you're on the rooftop, it was like one of those cool New York, like out of the movies rooftop. Like, yep, that was mine. Most places in New York don't even have a fucking rooftop. Not all of them do. Most don't. And not one that faces fucking Times Square and like the ball dropping. It's not the ball dropping, but it's the other side. Ball is on 42. This is 47th. Like, you know, the tower that you see when you're seeing like New Year's Eve in Times Square. You're seeing that in the background. They normally show the ball. I don't know how to explain the video footage angle, but okay. This was insane. Like the doorman, like in Times Square, like right next to a theater, like there's a market across the street. But like what? There's an F train. There was a fucking train, like, which having F train is the most like frequently used train, I feel like, in Manhattan. It's like the best line you can use. It like kind of takes you everywhere. And it took me to my school, which was even perfect. Like, it was on my block. It was like, I don't know, 1/4 of a mile down my street. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. And I see this place, and I can't even believe it. And I'm like, oh my God, I am so grateful that I did not settle for anything less than my dream apartment. Like, I'm so glad that I didn't settle to just get some other fucking thing because it just wasn't working out. I'm so grateful that I didn't settle. I'm so grateful that it didn't work out with the other fucking room because I didn't even like the other room. I just liked the apartment building in the complex, but I didn't like anything about the other room. I probably would have felt like claustrophobic. It felt like a walk-in closet, like a tiny walk-in closet size room. There was and it had a twin bed, and my room had the queen bed. And like, it blew my mind. And I was like, I am so grateful that it actually didn't work out 2 weeks ago. And I was astounded, and there were people there looking at the room, and I went up to the owner and I was like, hi, I would like to rent out this room. I have my checkbook right here. I can write you a check right now. And he's like, okay, sounds great. I wrote the fucking check and I handed it to him, and I was the happiest girl in the fucking world, you guys. Oh my God. It was a very movie-like scenario, scene, and story. And I couldn't believe it. I like cried gratitude, happy tears. I was so sad when it didn't work out in the first. And then I was like, now I remember why the address felt familiar. I was so confused when it didn't work out the first time because I like really saw myself like living here. And that's because, yeah, it was always meant to be mine. And I did get like a glimpse of a future timeline where this really was mine. I just had to wait a little longer because God in the universe know that I'm a spoiled little fucking princess diva and knows that like I want specific as fudge things. And they're actually like saving me and waiting to give me something even better than what I thought I deserved, like initially with that other, no offense, shit room. And it blew my mind. It was fucking crazy. The price too, it was really, 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 really cheap. It was like unreasonably cheap. And it covered everything, like heater and water and internet. And I was like in heaven. And I moved there. And it was so cool because I really didn't need to buy much. I just needed to buy like bed sheets, and I made it cute, obviously, and some hangers and a blanket and some pillows. But like everything was already there. And yeah, I lived in Times Square. It was amazing. I ended up living there for a little over a half a year. And it was a time. It was magical. It was also sad because I felt so alone. Because a few months later, it like hit me that I actually, wait a minute, like I am broken up with my fiance and we're not going to get married. And like, wait, what the fuck? Because we were dating on and off since high school, and I was like 23 at this point. We started dating when we were 15. So it was like this hold on, like life will never be the same kind of a moment. But I did go to FIT and I did learn to design purses and shoes and things. But then I like quit that. I worked on Fashion Week in New York and like Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. I worked on Michael Kors fashion shows. I worked on Gucci's fashion show, Nanette Lepure, like big designers. There were more designers. My life in New York was literally a scene out of the movies. I like went on dates with like literally like runway models that were like Italian. Like there were so many things that happened in that timeline. I made so many friends. I made so many memories. It was like such a beautiful and sad and tragic like timeline and story, because when it did actually hit me that like we are broken up and we're not like, I don't get to have that dream anymore, it like really hit me hard, and I really was like depressed and sad because I was avoiding like feeling anything towards that breakup for a long time. And then after like a half a year or more, I moved back to LA because I just felt like I felt like I fulfilled my New York dream to like the highest extent. Like I went to all the Broadway shows. A lot of times I chose Broadway over food, over dinner. Like I would have $100, like $50, 100, no, it's like $50. And I would be like, dinner or inspiration? Like I was a starving artist. And I was like, Broadway, because our school would give us like student discounts on like Broadway shows and things, because it was like a performance arts school. Not a performance arts, but it was like an arts school, right? There are a lot of beautiful, tragic, and sad things that happened there. It wasn't like tragic. It just, in the beginning, it was really exciting and it was really fun. And I was like living my fucking dream of a life. But then after a while, I started to get lonely, and I started to like, for 2 months, I like completely avoided the fact that we broke up. And then when it actually hit me, I started to be like really sad and I felt really lonely, and I didn't like want to go to work, and I didn't want to go to classes, and I just wanted to feel sorry for myself, and I just wanted to watch Gossip Girl episodes on my laptop and just cry. Oh my God, there was also Gossip Girl that inspired some of this. I wanted to sit on my room and just fucking cry and feel sorry for myself. Yeah, it's true. But it's real. But, you know, I felt like I fulfilled my New York dream. I made so many dreams come true in that timeline. There were so many like these New York little moments that I saw in movies that I wanted to do. Like drag queen mimosas on a Sunday brunch, like random ass shit, random things that I just saw in movies or things. And I wanted to have these like movie essence like moments. There was another bucket list thing, which was being alone in Times Square by myself. I would go out to clubs with my friends and we would party till like the sun came out. We would party in clubs and then like we would head back at like 5 in the morning. There were times where if you go to Times Square at like 4 a.m., at the time, 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., you're the only human being in Times Square. And it really felt like that Vanilla Sky scene moment. I had this moment where me and my friends came back from a club and we were being silly and just like drunk, like buzzed, like being silly in the fucking streets. And then all of a sudden, like I paused and I looked and I was like, oh my God, this is my Vanilla Sky manifesto moment where I am alone in Times Square. The moment my friend left and I was like walking home now by myself in Times Square, I was like, I can't believe that like what this place looks like in New Year's, what it looked like in Vanilla Sky when Tom Cruise is running through Times Square alone. And I'm like, I'm this person. And I was like, it felt like also like a movie. Like I was standing in the middle of Times Square and all the flashing lights and all the things. All I needed was someone to film me and create like a movie doc. But anyways, that was like a cool like, oh, wow, movie-esque moments. But I hope you enjoyed the story. I feel like there was a lot of takeaway here about being specific as fuck when you want to manifest something. If you feel like something's for you, a lot of times, because it's just not going to manifest in the exact way that you thought. But a lot of times God and the universe will surprise you that they have something even better out there for you. I've learned that so many times where I like got sad about, I wanted to manifest something and I was sad that it didn't come out a specific way in that timeline. And then I waited like a few days or a week or a month or two, and then it like manifested even into greater greatness. And it always blew my mind too. Like, no, that actually that minimal small thing that you thought was for you. No, God actually had a bigger plan for you. The universe was looking out for you, and there was actually something better waiting for you that was actually bigger and better than you ever imagined. So I am going to end this podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to check out my masterclass called Money Magnet, where I teach you guys more manifestation tricks. And Money Magnet is essentially how to master the frequency of manifesting and attracting specific amounts of money in short period amount of times and becoming a money magnet to all of your desires. Such a good and powerful masterclass. It's a 2-hour masterclass. You get lifetime access, and you can literally join right now and watch it. Just hit play. You're going to love it. I love you guys, and I will see you on the next episode of Influenced by Kim. Bye.